Hey everyone, welcome to our channel, Deep Bible Study, in our next episode. Today we have Pastor Park in our show. So glad you're here with us today, Pastor. Thanks for coming. Today we are diving into one of the most misunderstood topics in the Christian life, the difference between condemnation and correction. And I promise you, once you see this clearly, you will never unsee it. And I'm Alex. Okay, full honesty moment right here at the top. When Pastor Park first told me what this episode was about, I said, aren't those basically the same thing? Like, if someone corrects you, aren't they kind of judging you? Isn't that condemnation? I genuinely did not know the difference. So if you're sitting there feeling the same way, you are in exactly the right place today.
Alex, you are not alone in that, and that's honestly why we had to do this episode. Because a lot of good people, even inside the church, have blurred this line. And the damage it's caused is real. Parents have pushed kids away. Friendships have shattered. People have walked away from God entirely because they only ever felt condemned, never corrected with love. There is a difference, and it matters enormously. Understanding condemnation versus correction will change how you parent your kids, how you do friendship, how you lead a team, and, maybe most importantly, how you talk to yourself inside your own head. We condemn ourselves constantly, so let's start at the foundation. What actually is condemnation? Condemnation is a verdict, and it's not just a verdict about what you did, it's a verdict about who you are. Condemnation says, you are broken beyond fixing. You are worthless. There is no point in trying. It bypasses the action entirely and goes straight for the identity. And the cruelest part? It leaves the person with absolutely no path forward.
Okay, Pastor, so condemnation isn't just calling out a mistake, it's writing the whole person off. Like stamping the word, rejected, across someone's forehead. And I think most of us have felt that at some point, from a parent, a teacher, a coach, a pastor. It is a devastating thing to receive, because it doesn't just say, you failed. It says, you are a failure. Past tense, permanent.
Correction does something completely different. Correction says, what you did was wrong, and I believe you can do better. I love you too much to pretend this didn't happen. And I love you too much to give up on you. It's both. It holds the truth and it holds the relationship. It names the wrong and it keeps the door wide open. That's the whole difference right there.
Wow, Pastor, that is amazing. I love that. So correction is not soft. It doesn't close its eyes and pretend everything is fine. That would be enabling, not love. But there is hope built into it. There is a path. You are not permanently stuck in this moment. You are not defined by this failure. That's the thing that condemnation robs from you, hope. And you cannot change without hope.
Let me give you a picture. Two coaches, same struggling player, same bad play. Coach A gets in the player's face and shouts, you are terrible. You'll never be an athlete. What is even wrong with you? Watch that player shut down. Watch them stop trying. That's condemnation. Coach B pulls them aside calmly. That was the wrong move. Here's why. Here's what we do differently. Let's run it again. Same truth, completely different spirit. That's correction.
Oh, Pastor, that hits close. I had a high school coach who would say, you play like you don't belong here. And after hearing that enough times, I stopped trying. I genuinely thought, what's the point? He has already decided I'm a failure, so why prove him wrong when he'll just move the goalposts? I was 14 years old and I walked away from a sport I genuinely loved because of that man's words. Words do that.
And that is the hidden cost of condemnation. It doesn't just judge the moment you're in. It reaches forward and steals your future. It takes something from what could have been. Because hope is the engine of all growth and change, you literally cannot sustain the effort to change without believing change is possible. Condemnation kills that belief. Correction is what replants it. The famous passage of the woman caught in adultery is located in John chapter 8 verses 1 to 11, specifically verses 3 to 11 describe the event. In these verses, religious leaders bring an accused woman to Jesus to test him, asking if she should be stoned according to the law of Moses. Jesus famously stoops to write on the ground and tells the crowd, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Okay, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, they dragged the woman into the middle of a very public space. She had been caught in adultery, and they stood her in front of everyone, in front of Jesus, and said, "Moses says she should be stoned. What do you say?" Now, this is the crucial detail: they were not there for her. They were trying to trap Jesus. She was a pawn in their power game.
Yes, Pastor, you are right. This detail is so important and honestly really easy to miss if you're just rushing through the story. These religious men did not care one bit about this woman's spiritual well-being. They were using her shame, her humiliation, her worst moment as a weapon to catch Jesus in a trap. And that, using someone's failure to score political or religious points, is the darkest, most cynical form of condemnation.
That's exactly right. Condemnation uses people as objects. It doesn't see them as human beings made in the image of God. It sees them as problems to be managed, or tools to be used. Jesus looked at this woman and saw something completely different. He bent down and wrote something in the dirt. We still don't know what. That pause alone is significant. He didn't react. He thought. He was present with her.
True, Pastor. And then he stood up and said the words that have echoed through history. Let anyone who is without sin cast the first stone. And one by one, starting with the oldest in the crowd, who presumably had the most years of sin to consider, they all walked away. And Jesus is left alone with her. Here is the extraordinary thing. He was the only one in that whole crowd who was actually sinless. He was the only one actually qualified to condemn her. And he chose not to.
He looked up and asked her gently, "Woman, where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And then Jesus, the Son of God, the one person who had every right to condemn, said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now, and leave your life of sin." 2 sentences. That's the whole correction. No lecture, no guilt trip, no list of conditions she had to meet first.
Yes, Pastor. 2 sentences, and they contain everything. He protected her dignity, he refused condemnation, and he called her clearly to something better: leave your life of sin. He named the wrong. He did not pretend the adultery was fine, but he did not weaponize it against her. He used it to point her toward a better life. That is correction carried out with absolute perfection. That is the model.
Notice the sequence, Alex. There is a grace first, then the call to change. He did not say, "Stop sinning, and then I won't condemn you." He said, "I don't condemn you, now go and leave your life of sin." The grace came unconditionally. The correction followed freely. That is the order God works in. He loves us as we are, and that love is precisely what moves us toward who we're meant to become.
This story makes me think immediately of a friend of mine. She made some really serious financial decisions in her mid-20s. Built up a lot of debt, made some choices she wasn't proud of. And when she finally worked up the courage to tell her family, her father looked at her and said, flatly, "You always do this. You are irresponsible. You will never change." End of conversation. He walked out of the room. She shut down completely. She didn't reach out to her family for help for years. Not because she was too proud, but because she was too ashamed. That sentence, "You will never change," became a wall. She carried it like a life sentence. And ironically, because she was so paralyzed by shame and isolation, the debt got significantly worse. Condemnation didn't fix the problem. It made it worse.
And here's the thing, Alex, that dad was not wrong about the facts. She had made bad choices. The situation was serious, but imagine if he had said instead, "This is a real mess, sweetheart. But we are going to figure it out together. Let's sit down and make a plan." Same truth about the situation. Completely different spirit. That version is the one where Jamie gets out of debt. That's correction doing what condemnation never could.
And honestly, Pastor, I've been there with money too. Made genuinely dumb decisions. And looking back, the people who actually helped me were never the ones who said, I told you so. They were the ones who said, okay, here's what you do next. That word, next, is everything. Give people a next. Give them something to move toward, not just something to feel bad about.
Give people a next. Alex, I love that. Write that on a sticky note and put it on your bathroom mirror, everyone. The next time you have to say something hard to someone, a child, a friend, a colleague, ask yourself, have I given them a next? Is there a path forward in what I just said? If the answer is no, if your words are all verdict and no road, you might be condemning when you think you're correcting.
Alright, Bible story number 2, and this one is rich because it actually shows both condemnation and correction in the same passage. Luke chapter 15, the prodigal son. Now most people know the younger son's side of the story, but there's another character who doesn't get enough attention. Pastor Park, please explain. I am confused by prodigal son father's behavior. The father, he sees his son coming from far away. And he doesn't wait inside. He doesn't fold his arms. He doesn't rehearse his speech. He runs. And I want you to picture that, an older, dignified man in ancient Middle Eastern culture, hiking up his robe and running down the road. That was considered deeply undignified. He didn't care. He threw his arms around the son before the boy could even finish his apology. Ring, robe, feast. Welcome home.
Alex, I do understand your feelings. But the way God sees is different from what we see. The father didn't pretend the son hadn't wasted the money. He knew everything, but his first move was restoration, not interrogation. He didn't say, sit down, we're going through everything you did before I decide if I'll let you back. He embraced him first, and that embrace, that grace, is exactly what created the conditions where the son could change. You cannot shame someone into genuine transformation, but love can do it. But then we meet the older brother, and I'll be honest with you, I understand the older brother. He has been home the whole time, faithful, working every single day, never caused trouble, never embarrassed the family. And now his wreck of a brother waltzes back after burning through half the estate and gets a party? He is furious. He refuses to go inside. And when he finally speaks to his father, listen carefully to how he refers to his brother. He says, this son of yours. Not, my brother. He has already cut him off in his heart. He has already exiled him from the family in his own mind. And then he recounts every failure. Who devoured your property with prostitutes? He's cataloging the sins, every detail, no acknowledgement that the boy came back, no acknowledgement that anything might be different now. That is condemnation, dragging the past forward to punish the present. A verdict that refuses to be updated. But here's what moves me, the father doesn't condemn the older son either. He goes out to him. He doesn't wait for him to calm down or to behave better first. He walks out and says, son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate, because your brother was dead and is now alive. He was lost and is now found. He corrects the older son too, lovingly, without slamming the door. The father's posture never changes. It's always open arms. Now let's talk about another story from the Bible, from Galatians chapter 2 verses 11 to 14, Paul correcting Peter. Now, this third Bible story is one that surprises a lot of people, because it involves two people we put on a pedestal. Galatians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul and the Apostle Peter, two of the biggest names in the entire New Testament, and Paul publicly calls Peter out, in front of other believers. Just walks right up and confronts him face to face. Peter had been eating with Gentile believers, non-Jewish Christians, and this was a powerful, countercultural thing. It was a living picture of the gospel breaking down walls between people. Beautiful, radical unity. But then some Jewish believers arrived, people who still held tightly to the old Jewish customs and traditions, and Peter, afraid of their disapproval, quietly separated himself from the Gentiles. Just pretended he didn't know them, and other Jewish believers started doing the same thing. It was spreading.
Yes, Pastor. And Paul steps in and says, I'm paraphrasing, Peter, you are being a hypocrite. You live like a Gentile when it's convenient, and then you act Jewish when the traditionalists show up. You are misleading people. Now, here is the key question that separates this from condemnation. Why did Paul do this? Was it to embarrass Peter? To prove he was a better apostle?
Absolutely not. The motivation was the gospel. Paul was protecting something bigger than both of them, the truth that all people are one in Christ Jesus, regardless of background. And the motivation is always what separates correction from condemnation. You can say the exact same words, the exact same truth, and depending on why you're saying it, it's either an act of love or an act of cruelty. Ask yourself honestly, am I speaking to restore this person, or to diminish them?
That question hit me personally. My closest friend once told me, privately and kindly, Alex, you have a tendency to talk over people in group conversations, and I think it's pushing people away without you realizing it. My first reaction was honestly defensive. My internal monologue was not pretty. But she said it because she was for me. She wanted to hang out the next day. She wasn't announcing it to make herself look better. That's Paul energy. That's what real friendship looks like.
Let's bring this completely into the home, because for most of us, the most important place where we practice correction or condemnation every single day is with our children. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4 is a verse Paul wrote directly to parents. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. That is a direct, clear warning against condemnation-style parenting. God knew this would be a temptation, because there is a kind of discipline that isn't really discipline at all. It's a parent processing their own frustration through their child. The child did do something wrong, sure, but the response goes way beyond what the situation requires. It's loud, it's personal, it attacks character. And kids always know the difference. They can tell whether you're trying to help them grow, or whether you're just relieving your own pressure. They feel it immediately. Here is one of the most practical things I tell parents. Separate the behavior from the identity. Every time you say, that was a dishonest thing to do, not, you are a liar. That was unkind, not, you are a cruel person. One sentence describes an action that can be changed. The other sentence defines a person in a way that makes change feel impossible. You are literally giving your child a belief about themselves with your words. Choose carefully. Yes, Pastor, I want to be really transparent with you about something personal. Growing up, when I made mistakes, I often heard things like, why are you so stupid? And I want to be clear that it wasn't said with malice. But I absorbed it. For years into adulthood I quietly believed I wasn't very smart. It shaped decisions I made, schools I didn't apply to, opportunities I didn't pursue. It took real intentional work to separate that word from my identity. Parental words go very, very deep. And that is the long-term hidden cost of condemnation in parenting, not just the moment, but the years of ripple effect. But here's the extraordinary flip side. Correction done with consistent love plants seeds of courage and resilience that last equally long. I believe you can do better than this. Said with warmth, said after consequences are given, might be the most transformative sentence a parent can offer. Because it tells the child, I see your potential even when you can't. I'll give you one final parenting picture. A mom I know, her 15-year-old lied about where they were going one weekend. She found out. She sat the teenager down at the kitchen table. Calmly, she explained why it was unsafe and exactly how it had broken trust between them. She gave a clear, proportionate consequence, no phone for 1 week. And then she ended the conversation by reaching across the table, squeezing the teenager's hand, and saying, I love you, and I genuinely know you can do better. This is not who you are. Then they had dinner together. That's it.
True, Pastor. That teenager is going to carry that conversation completely differently than if mom had screamed, You're a liar and I'll never trust you again. Same incident, same lie was told, same consequence was given, but in one version, the relationship deepens through the heart moment. In the other version, the teenager learns that home is a place of shame, and they start hiding more, not less. Words open doors or lock them. Parents choose which, every single day.
Let's land this clearly. Here is every difference we've walked through today, all together. Condemnation attacks the person. Correction addresses the behavior. Condemnation delivers a verdict with no appeal. Correction delivers a truth with an open door. Condemnation's only destination is punishment. Correction's destination is always restoration. Condemnation has no next. Correction always, always, gives a next.
And here is the spiritual bedrock that holds all of this up. John chapter 3 verse 17. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. The entire mission of God in history is correction at a cosmic, breathtaking scale. He looked at our mess, our rebellion, our broken and selfish choices, and rather than writing us off, he sent Jesus. He gave us the ultimate next.
And that is the model we are being called to follow, in our homes, with our friends, in our churches, even with ourselves. None of us gets this right all the time. I don't, but it starts with a question we carry into every hard conversation. Am I speaking to restore, or to punish? If there is no hope in what you're about to say, stop. Take a breath, and try again, because the God who did not condemn you is asking you to do the same for someone else. Thank you so much for spending your time with us on Grace and Truth today. Share this with someone who needs it, and we will see you in the next episode. God bless you all.